Muslims, dear believers, Assalamu alaikum.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Hayya ala salah. Hayya ala salah. Hayya ala falah. Hayya ala falah. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa nukilu bihi azza wa jal. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu. Wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu rasul. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in wa ba'd. Ayyuhal muslimun. That is, praise be to Allah, the guardian, evolver, cherisher, keeper, sustainer of all the worlds, of all the systems of knowledge. We render all praises to Him, and we seek His help, and we ask for His forgiveness. Mighty and sublime is He. I bear witness and give open testimony that there is nothing in creation worthy of worship except Allah and Allah alone, the one and only. There is none like unto Him. And I bear witness that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is Allah's servant, messenger, is Allah's servant, messenger, prophet, and guide to all of humanity for all time. We ask Allah's peace, His blessings, His highest exaltations be upon Prophet Muhammad, upon his family, his companions, the righteous, all on us, O Muslims, be peace. Dear beloved Muslims, I advise you as I advise myself to fear Allah, to have taqwa for Allah, to reverence Him, have regard for Him and His creation, and know that He is the best to create, the creator of all. He creates but was never created. We should fear God as He should be feared. I greet you all in the best greeting. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
And what follows of this excellent salutation to our Prophet Muhammad, the prayers and the peace be on him. Dear Muslims, words cannot adequately express both the joy and the humbleness that I feel. The joy in that it's Salatul Jumat. The humbleness is that I have been allowed by our resident Imam to offer the khutbah for the Salatul Jumat for today, 20th of March, 2015. This is a blessed day in that it was the day in which man was created. It is the day in which he will be raised up. And it is also the day in which we have been instructed, is the best day, even above that of the Eid al-Adha and the Eid al-Fitr. It is also said that to not be in attendance at the Salat al-Jum'ah, that 3 absences will cause your spiritual light to go up. Doesn't have to be here. Doesn't say that you have to come to the New African Islamic Community Center. But we are instructed that these 3 absences, so the importance there is for us to not only attend the Salat al-Jum'ah some way, but as is always stressed across this roster, that you be on time. If you view the Quran as a book that is designed to benefit the whole life of the human being, and not just its secrets and hidden messages, not just extracting from it a narrative that fits your own twisted version of what you think God commands or is commanding you to do. You will find our instruction for building community life can be found throughout the Quran. Throughout Quran, Allah instructs us through creation how we build, not just for our personal benefit, but that of the whole of society. If you study nature, if your study of the world in which Allah has created, you will see that we are surrounded by everything from plants, animals, insects, to mountains, cities, to entire countries that are all in some shape, form, or fashion a part of a community. You would be very hard pressed to find anything in creation that has been singularly created except Allah and Allah alone. Very seldom do you just see one blade of grass, or one weed, or one either animate or inanimate object. And whenever anything falls outside of its community, it becomes noteworthy. It is always noteworthy whenever someone describes to you an island, because it stands alone. Nothing around the land but a body of water. Or you may find an animal that they're claiming is bordering on extinction. There's only 1, 2, or a few of them left. And what makes these animals or these creatures rare, what may put them on the endangered species list, then causes a society to want to protect them. No more hunting, no more killing this creature, because soon, if they stop the extinction of any one of these animals, or if they stop the killing or the destruction of any community, you will find that that animal or that community will begin the process of rebuilding itself. If you look through Quran, of the 114 surahs, you will find many of them that are entitled with the names of animals or insects, birds, the bees, the ants, the cow, the heifer, the whale, the elephant, and the spider. Throughout the Quran, you will see references to the camel of the desert, the fish in the ocean, the sheep, the goat, and the horse. And they all form their own communities. They all have their own leadership. They're all building, they're all growing, they're all surviving together. And Allah has created a delicate balance for all of them in their community life. Allah says, in Quran, by Allah, we also sent our prophets to peoples before you, but Shaitan made to the wicked their own acts seem alluring. He is also their patron today, but they shall have a most grievous penalty. And we sent down the book to those for the express purpose that you should make clear to them those things in which they differ, and that it should be a guide and a mercy to those who believe. And Allah also instructs us in our same, in this same Quran. In contrast to what I just read about signs being sent down, in contrast to that, it says, they say, why is not a sign sent down to him from his Lord? Say, Allah has certainly power to send down a sign, but most of them understand not. There is not an animal that lives on earth, nor a being that flies on its wings, but forms parts of communities like you. Nothing have we omitted from the book, and they all shall be gathered to their Lord in the end. And Allah, the Mighty, surely speaks the truth. So I read those two together. Because it talks about the first few ayats I read, it talks about we sent down the book to you for the express purpose that you should make clear to them those things in which they differ, and that it should be a guide and a mercy to those who believe. And Allah sends down rain from the skies and gives therewith life to the earth after its death. Verily, and this is a sign for those who listen. But to contrast that with those asking about why is not a sign sent down, Allah's response Immediately following that was to say, there is not an animal that lives on earth, nor a being that flies on its wings, but forms parts of communities just like you. And in case you have doubt, he follows up in the next sentence, and same ayat, in the next sentence and says, nothing have we omitted from the book, and they all shall be gathered to their Lord in the end. Now, the all that they're talking about is all of creation. Not just the animals, not just the insects, not just the human beings. When this thing folds up, it's going to be everything. It ain't going to just be part of it. So the message that we are given here, the message that I'm taking away from this is, what is it that we need to do to build community? Now, as I was preparing this talk, I recognized that how important language is. And I wanted this talk to be general because I have no idea where it may end up. And I don't necessarily presume that, and we can clearly see in the world today, that all Muslims are not on the same page. I have gotten to a point that I don't care how someone else may want to describe those in the religion, or who claim to be a part of the religion of Al-Islam. I'm not taking any direction from them. So I have made a personal decision, and you can make a decision on your own, that much, if not all, of the nonsense that any one of us either hear, read, or have looked into that is going on in today's world, these individuals, even those who subscribe to that same nonsense, they are not Muslim. They are not practicing the religion of Al-Islam. And I offer to you as evidence on your own time, and I started to do this, but I've never done it before. I know it's been done in other masjids. But on your own, I want you to go and read Prophet Muhammad, the prayers and the peace be on him, read his last sermon, his last khutbah. Don't take my word for it. When he instructed the Muslims not to divide themselves. So tell me, what is a Shiite? What is a Sunni? What is a Wasabi? What is that? What is an Al-Qaeda? What is an ISIS? What is that? Ain't nothing Islamic about that just because you use the word. I know a whole lot of people named Abdul and Kareem, and you pick any Muslim name you want. You can catch them out at any bar, in any after hours joint. They'll be at the go-go club. They'll be at the naked ladies bar. They'll be getting bikini waxes and putting on clothes that they ain't got no business putting on. Imani. They got all kinds of names that they adopt, but they're not Muslim. You can't build no community with people like that. So I've taken just a personal direction from my own mind, not listening to anybody else. And I've decided that whenever I hear them describe this as being a part of Al-Islam or being part of the Muslim community, the Ummah of Muhammad, they don't know what they're talking about. Even if you are a sheikh and an imam and you're up there espousing that same nonsense that's coming from across the media, you are contributing to the downfall of the religion as it was revealed to Prophet Muhammad, the prayers and the peace be on him. And you're going to have to answer for that. You know it and I know it. That's not what you practice. That is not what you think. That is not what you believe. They playing games with you. They playing with your intelligence. The intelligence that Allah gave you when he gave it to Adam and gave him an intelligent mind. Now that mind is being played with. It's being toyed with. And they even so confused in their own process, they don't even know what to call it. They'll say something and then follow it up and say, well, we know that's not all Muslims. Then why'd you say it? If it ain't all Muslims. And what is it? Is it ISIS or ISIL? If you want to insult them, you call them ISIL. If you want to call them by the proper name by which they identify themselves, they call ISIS. But I would just shorten it to just CIS, because the word Islam should not be in there anywhere. Because it is not Islam. They cannot show me any parts of the Quran or any surah of the Prophet or any hadith from the Prophet that says they should behave in the way that they're behaving right now. And I'm not just talking about them, I'm talking all over the world. What happened to the hadith about you not killing innocent people? What happened to the hadith about you killing innocent people will take you straight to hell? So how did they get that all mixed up with the 70 virgins for the martyrs? And then there's some of us that buying into this nonsense and going out repeating what you heard somebody from Canada who was a news reporter say on CNN or on MSNBC or on any of these, I don't care if it was on Al Jazeera. They are part of this nonsense too because they bought into it. And as long as you keep buying into something, they're going to keep telling it to you so many times that you're going to start believing that it's true. Must be, because they said it. And they keep saying it. But it's wrong. You cannot build a community like that. Not on terror. Not on killing innocent people. And if you want to place this thing in a local context, how are we going to build a community? Not just as Muslims. How can we build a community just as African Americans here in this country? Let's break this thing down to its common denominator. Most of us in this city, in this country, we ain't catching hell because we Muslim. That ain't where your hell started. Kenneth Brown, Bill Reed, all them old names you had before you became Abdullah. You wasn't catching hell because you're not catching hell now because you Muslim. We need to start a process. We need to start a process of building our community where we know it can fit in, because it cannot just be about us. It cannot be. And let me be clear with you when I say who us is. I am not talking to those of you that want to have discussions with me about a rainbow society. I am not amongst that group. I am not amongst the group that uses the word diversity as a code word. Those are not the people that I'm talking about. We have not gotten to that point yet. if you want to bring me into a process, please allow me to bring something to the table. I don't want what it is that you have. I can't build my community from what you've got. I don't want to hear any messages coming from you that try that try to mix me up with something else as if I need to forget what my history is, where I came from, and being a part of a historical process where I saw how communities could build themselves. And those of you who were blessed to be a part of the nation, you experienced it. It wasn't just a theory. It wasn't just in a book. If you got the book was only instructing you how to build community life. And it was a nation that thought that all of this community life could be a benefit for self and kind. Well, who's kind? Kind of look like you. Kind of act like you. Kind of come from the same community and background that you came from. That's the kind. We ain't got to use a whole lot of words to get to the point. You build for self and kind. That way you don't have to make a long list. It includes everybody that was brought here on the same boat. Just grab an oar because you're right with me. And ain't no sense in trying to change it or change the dynamic or try to water it down and dilute it and call it something else like diversity. Or we have to be inclusive. Or describing to you how much progress you've made. When you look at it, you haven't made any. Not in reality. Any progress that has been made has been to the benefit of everybody else except you. Everybody else has progressed. And I'm not so sure, depending on some reports that I've heard here lately, I don't know whether there's been a regression even in their progress. Because there's still suspicions to this day that there are black people that are still being hung. They're still being beat. They're still being shot. They're still being choked. They're still being denied the same everything that other groups of people have been granted. And I ain't talking about ancient history, I'm talking modern history. If you got anybody in your family who's a farmer, a black farmer, ask them why is it that they didn't get a part of the little paltry sum of $1.2 billion that the United States government tried to offer to every black farmer in the United States, not historically, unless you want to take history back to the mid-90s. That is 1990s, not 1890s. That's recent. I ain't making this stuff up. Took them over 20 years to settle that suit. And then everybody, by that time, many of them had lost their farms, died. So where's the progress? Ain't been no progress here. So this that I'm talking about here is designed to help us build community. And it was our Prophet Muhammad, the prayers and the peace be on him, that demonstrated to us, not just said it, but he demonstrated to us just like this, the clasping of the hands, showing and demonstrating the unity. And for all you rappers, what do you call it? The unity in the community. Because it's strong just like this, like bricks with mortar in between them. They can't be moved. That's the building of the community. Show me where we have that. Show me where we have that, and I can stop giving this talk right now and just change the subject. I don't see it. Now, I've heard there are communities as we move around the country where you can find communities of Muslims. God bless them. And God bless us too. For those of us who are trying or who are making a conscious effort in order to build communities. And I'm going to sit so that we can discuss, or I can discuss with you, how we do that. Let's pray for forgiveness. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So Allah has told us that there's not an animal on the face of the earth that doesn't form communities just like us. And for those of you who know the ayats dealing with Ibrahim, when he asked Allah to show him how the dead are brought back to life. And he humbled himself to God and it was like, look, it's not that I don't believe you, just my curious mind wants to know. And Allah instructed him to take 4 birds and put them on 4 different mountains and then call them. And they will come to you with deliberate speed. And it was Imam Dabidi Muhammad who broke down for us what those 4 birds were, or what the 4 mountains were that these birds were placed on. And not necessarily in any particular order, but one of them was politics, one was education, one was religion, and one was business. And if you think about any one of those things individually, within a Muslim community, that's how I would like to see it be built. Now, in doing some research for this talk, I also found a contrasting view, somewhat contrasting, from an individual by the name of Dr. Claude Anderson. And Dr. Anderson talks about building community. In fact, he wrote a whole book about it, entitled How Black People in the U.S. Can Become Rich and Powerful Now. So this is an individual who's still alive. So this is not, I'm not quoting W.E.B. Du Bois or Carter G. Woodson, but this is someone who's still alive today. And his suggestion for building community was economics. That's the same as Imam W.D. Muhammad when he talks about business. You know, business and economics are closely related. He has politics. That's right there with what Imam W.D. Muhammad said. He has next, and I'm giving you his in the order in which he gave them. He has next the judicial system, which he's categorized as your police departments and your judges. Now remember, he's coming at this from the perspective of trying to build a community for black people. So he's dealing with the issues, you know, my presumption was he was dealing with those issues that as a community, as a black community, we're facing. His next one was media. And his last one was education. Now, when you look at it, it's really the same four that Imam W.D. Muhammad said. The economics, we got that with business. Politics is exactly the same. When you look at the judicial, that actually comes out of a political process. So that falls right into that same category. When he talks about media, he was talking about media in terms of you being able to control the messages that come out. Because if you own the radio station, and I'm not talking about just one radio station, that's the problem. We get one of something and all of a sudden we think we in like Flint. You get one radio station, one TV station, you get one of everything. And you think you in. That's the wrong kind of thinking. Because when that message goes out, and don't take my word for it, do this when you get home. Look at your local news. Start on one channel at 11 o'clock. At 11:01, flip to another channel. At 11:02, go to the third one. At 11:04, go to another one. And I guarantee you, each one of them will be giving you the same story. I guarantee it. There'll be no deviation, none whatsoever. Whatever is happening that day, they all lead with the same exact story. You don't control one media house to get the message out. So if they want to say Muslims ain't nothing, if they want to say Muslims did this, Muslims did that, Islam is responsible for this, it's in the Quran that, what are you going to say? Write a letter to the editor? Call up the station and tell them, you know, I don't appreciate you slanting the story. You don't own anything. They don't have to do nothing. Who you gonna get to rise up with you? The members of New Africa? What, all 24 of us? Oh yeah, right, they'll really listen to you. No. So I agree with both of them, and essentially both of them are the same. So now, in order to build this community, you have to do as Imam W.D. Muhammad instructed us to do when he told us when we go in business, which is to establish a purpose. First thing, don't even concern yourself with nothing else. Don't be tripping on how much money you can make or what you're going to be able to do once you get such and such. Don't even worry about that. Establish a purpose. Establish a purpose for forming a community. What are you basing it on? What is the foundation for it? And the reason Imam W.D. Muhammad has always said that one of those mountains is a religious mountain, because you can build all you want to build, but if it's not built on some kind of moral foundation, it's going to crumble. It's going to fall. They got a whole surah in Quran that talks about Rome is fallen. And what did they say about Rome? It was one of the greatest civilizations on the earth. But it fell. Why? Because they fell into moral decay. Now, Claude Anderson don't mention nothing about religion. So now, I think some of the things he says were good, but it's the absence of what he didn't say that I've got to kind of put that aside, and then I've got to go with my leader and teacher, because his makes more sense. Why? Because mine is everlasting. I can take what I do up to the Jannah. I ain't going to get there if I become morally corrupt. Because when you listen to Claude Anderson, what he suggests you do is that you buy politicians, because they're all for sale. They all corrupt. And there might be some truth to that, but I don't want to get involved in the corruption. No, that's immoral. Hell, that'll take me to jail if I get caught. And I ain't got to wait till I get caught. There's something in my heart and in my mind that tells me you can't participate in wrong trying to make it right. Islam don't have no robbing Peter to pay Paul. Ain't no such thing. Ain't no such thing as a lesser evil. That's like being a little pregnant. How you do that? I mean, and so we got this purpose. Then after you establish the purpose, you got to have a will. You got to have something that drives you every morning that says, look, I got to get up and this is what I'm going to work on. I'm going to work on building community. And I'm telling you, they all say this. I do recall this. I don't remember the whole order that Imam W.D. Muhammad gave it in, but I do recall this. The first one was business, economics, money. Now, don't take my word for it. You've probably heard the same stories that I have. There are communities all across this country that are always given a free pass. It's only when you decide that you want to form a community that it becomes a problem. Well, how do I know? Because any one of you can take me right now to a Hispanic community where they have most of their economic businesses in a mall, somewhere, or in one particular area. And if you don't know any, ask me. I can tell you where they are because I've seen them. To this day in Washington, D.C., we still have a Chinatown. You go up to Mount Pleasant, that's a Latino community. You go out to Tyson's and Shirlington, you will find many of the Asiatic Pacific Islanders from Laos and from Vietnam. You ain't got to take my word for it. They know what they're doing. You see all the stores. Go up to the market, 5th Street Market. See all the signs up there in Korean. They ain't talking to you. All the signs are in Korean. Now, if I was to put on a sign that I'm selling my house, but I only wanted to sell it to an African American, they would lock me up. They would sue me. They would take me to jail, fine me, might even take my house. But a Korean can put up a for sale sign in Korean, but that's not discrimination. Now, I'm not knocking them because they built community. I'm knocking you because you haven't. And I don't know what's wrong with you. I don't know why it is you got into a world that you want to see everybody else get ahead of you in the race. How does that happen? Who in the world enters a race and say, well, okay, I want to make sure I finish last? You're not even in the race. That doesn't even make sense. Okay, so you got the purpose, you got the will. Now you're going to need to have a plan. Where you going? Who gonna lead you there? Imam W.D. Muhammad had to teach us leadership, how to respect it. Some of you all, he had to just boot out. Just kick you out because you didn't have no respect for leadership whatsoever. And I'm telling you, it works. You start respecting leadership, your whole life will change. And one of the things that you're going to see is how everybody else in the world has no respect for leadership. They don't even understand the concept because they surely not going to follow you. And when you even suggest the idea of, well, why don't we just wait and see what the chairman has to say? Why don't we wait and see what the president has to say? No, man, no, you shouldn't have said what he did. I'm going to write a letter. I'm going to call so-and-so. I'm going to do such and such. You're not respecting the leadership. We can't build a community without leaders. Even we're told in Quran, we're told that we're leaders in our own homes. Every one of you is an imam. And then what does the hadith suggest that you do? If there's two of you, one of you be the leader. There's a reason for that. Your arm does not tell your foot what to do. It doesn't happen that way. You don't have but one head. You don't have but one heart. Now you got two eyes. You got two nostrils. Got several teeth. Two lips. Two ears. Two sets of lungs. You got a kidney that you can give part of to somebody else and keep the other part for yourself. Huh? But ain't but one heart. Because you can't be pulled in all different kinds of directions. You don't have but one head. Somebody's got to do the thinking. Problem right now is we growing up in a world where people, they might as well just say, look, I ain't doing no stinking thinking. It's just too much trouble. So they'd rather act out of emotion. And that's what happens. You can't build no community on emotion. And I got to keep taking you back to Quran. Well, where is this coming from? God says that you cannot build a house on sand. You know what sand is? What you going to build on sand? It's going to collapse. That's why I know when I look at Dr. Henderson's thing and I don't see nothing on here about religion and morality, I know his brand of building community is going to collapse. Because you don't mind if we have all these things and still allow rump shakers. That's okay with you. It's okay with you to have all these things, but then you still don't want to speak up against domestic abuse. Every time it's got to be, you got to water it down. When you want to talk about violence against women, what do? Well, there's some women that are out there violent too. We ain't talking about them. We're talking about you, who Allah says in Quran. See, all of this has to go back to Quran. If it doesn't go back to Quran, get rid of it. The Quran is what gives you the support. That's what allows me to be able to say what I say, not just here, but once I get out there. I talk the same way there that I do in here. But because I'm amongst an intelligent group of men and women, I have to provide you with the support. Now, of course, when I get out there on the street, they don't want to hear nothing about no God, blah, blah, blah. So I got to give it to them in another way. I give it to them like I give, like the prophet, the prayers and the peace be on him, would give it. In slow, rhythmic terms. Don't get excited. Don't get all pent up with emotion like I'm pent up now, because they'll get lost in that. Then they'll start looking at you and saying, well, he can be volatile something. He scares me. You know that's what they say. And they always misinterpret. They can't seem to find or understand that intensity is not anger. When you believe in something, you're passionate about it. I can speak to you now the way I'm speaking to you because I'm talking to you from my heart. My head ain't got nothing to do with this. Because my head can't hold everything. It can't. I'm telling you now. There's so much up in it. Man, I'm telling you, I'm just glad that Allah didn't make it so that if you think too much, your head don't just blow up. We all need to be thankful for that. But in this process, we have got to learn how to do a CIA type duo or dawah. I'm sorry, I misspoke. A CIA type dawah, where it's real subtle, where people will say about you, that was real interesting what you just said. Where did you learn that from? And you don't even have to give them Quran. Just give them the message. And make it clear. Ain't got to be no whole lot of words. And if they don't hear you say it, humble yourself to your God and just under your breath or somewhere in your head or in your heart, just say, because whatever it is you said that triggered somebody else, all praises are due to Allah. That's all alhamdulillah means. That's all it means. And if you want to build in this community, you need to start saying that more because you're nothing. And I'm not just saying it, God says it. Read your Quran. You were created from nothing. Zero. From a fluid, from a stinky fluid. Despised. Shaitan used to walk around, spit on you. That's someone who despises you. To go around spitting on you? How would you all feel now if you sitting around, having your little cup of coffee and Danish, you and your wife out somewhere having lunch, and somebody just walked by and just spit on you? So don't get all big-headed and think, that you in charge of anything. That's why I've got to stick with the mountains that Imam W.D. Muhammad gave to us. And then finally, we need to put this plan into action. It needs implementation. I mean, to have this book and not actually use it, not actually try to absorb it, into your heart, man, you ain't. Allah's already told you. It's in the Quran. If you read it, you'll know it. It says you're like a donkey carrying books. You ain't getting it. Just because you carry it around. So what is the point of doing all these things, establishing a purpose, a will, a plan, and then not want to implement it? It can't just be a mere academic exercise. It can't be a process where all you like to do is just hear yourself talk. Because now all of a sudden you think you're brilliant. Because you got, my name is Taalib Uqdah and I got something to say. But sometimes you need to shut up. Don't say anything. And listen. Because maybe you'll find out you ain't got no business being where you think you are in the first place. That's not the place for you. Finally, I want to say this about that, and then we're going to say this, and then we're going to close. When we talk about building business, when we talk about building economics, we have to begin a process of supporting each other. There's no way to get around it. There have been enough studies that have shown that in other communities, these are other communities of various groups of people. If 10 people in the room who were Latino, or who were Vietnamese, or somewhere from the Asiatic Pacific Islands, or who were any other race people, Chinese, I'm kidding you, even amongst the Jews, their money, if I gave 10 people, each one of them $1,000, that $1,000 that they get would turn over anywhere from 8 to 18 times before it left the community. Now, what does that mean? That means if they got $1,000, they're going to take a part of that money and spend it with the cleaners that is owned by the guy that looks like them. And the guy that's at the cleaners, he's going to take the money and get his car fixed. He's going to take it to a mechanic that looks and that is of the same background as he is. And that auto mechanic that he takes it to, he's going to take that money because he needs to get a plumber, and he's going to get a plumber that's of the same community that he's in. 8 to 18 times this money turns over in various communities. In our community, the black community, 8 hours. 8 hours. What is that, like 9 to 5? 8 hours. You give us $1,000, within 8 hours, that $1,000 has left our community for good. Gone. Won't see it again. So at the very least, what I'm suggesting that we do here is be very conscious of who you spend your money with. Even if it means that you have to do without that pack of gum that you want to get from the little corner grocery store. Don't get it. Go get that same pack of gum from somebody that looks like you. And if there's nobody available, then you need to think about opening up a store. And then we need to think about patronizing you. That applies for right here. Now, he ain't going to tell you, but I'm going to tell you. Every person in this room, man and woman, you should be conscious enough that at some point, I don't care if it's once every 3 months, I don't care if it's once a year, once a week, I don't care when it is, but you need to be spending some money downstairs. Well, brother, his stuff is a little higher than what I get it anyway. Why? Because Imam W.D. Muhammad said this. If you go in there and buy from your brother while the price is high, he'll get to a point where he'll be able to lower his prices. Why? Because you're supporting him. Now, I know for a fact that it works because I've seen it work not only in the Nation of Islam, I've also seen it work amongst the gangster disciples, the vice lords, the Crips and the Bloods. A despicable group of folk who have no sort of moral values whatsoever, but they know how to support their own. In fact, they make their gang members do it. They go out and buy gas stations. They go out and get stores and cleaners and everything that they need for their little despicable community, and they are forced as gang members to buy their gas from the gas station that's owned by the gangster disciples. And if you don't believe me, I'll take you up there where it is if they still own it. Because I've been there. And I know they own it. And it ain't no secret that they own it. Now, if they can do it, what is wrong with you? Same thing. I got a business. No, when you don't wear no braids, no twists, and you don't have no locks. I mean, look at me. I don't have none either. But I got shampoos and gels and lotions and oils and all kinds of things. Support me? Why? Because I support you. Support him? Why? Because he supports you. And the rest of you that have businesses, I don't care what your business is. You in construction, sometimes construction is slow. Am I right? Sometimes you don't have work to do. Well, maybe I need to call you because I need my leaves raked. I'm going to put some money in your pocket. No, you ain't building no house, but I'm keeping the money amongst myself and kind. That's what we need to start doing. And there's no reason that we can't start doing it right now. But brother, I don't really need anything from downstairs. Well, somebody else does. You don't know nobody need a shirt? You don't know nobody need a, look, I can tell you right now, you give me a clean set of t-shirts, some clean socks, I don't care what color they are. I'm going to wear them. And one of the beauties about Al-Islam is when you buy something from a Muslim or a Muslim gives you something, when I wear it, you get the blessing and so do they. They don't get no better than that. I mean, not only are you going to spend your money where it needs to be spent, but now you're getting credit for it. Allah's holding on to it for you. And in his mercy, that may make the difference. That may make the difference in you going to hell or going to Jannah. Because you know you ain't made all your prayers. You know you missed something. Haven't you? You ain't got to answer. But you know it. But it's them other things that you do that's going to make a difference. Because you don't want to get up there, man, and find your toe right on the line. And all it took was you being conscious of your brother. And look, and don't let anybody tell you that this is racism. It ain't got nothing to do with racism. You read the hadith of the prophet, the prayers and the peace be on him. He'll tell you what racism is. It ain't got nothing to do with the way they've defined it. It's got everything to do according with him. He said there's nothing wrong with racism. It's when you use your race to oppress other people. Now, I know you can't do that because you ain't got no power. You don't own no electric company, no water company, no gas company, no electric company. You don't own a TV station. And if it wasn't for Kathy Hughes, you wouldn't have the one Radio 1 station that she owns. And I think Steve Harvey may have one too. I mean, big deal. All right. So out of all the radio stations, and you got people like Rupert Murdoch that own radio stations, TV stations, and newspapers. What's wrong, man? Now you run out and get the Washington Post, but I got to beg you to get the Afro or the Informer. Because you don't think that's a real newspaper. I mean, that don't even make sense. It's black and white just like the Post. It's a whole lot cheaper. And you getting news that you can use. They had a song about that too. Y'all know nothing about that. But they got news in there. It ain't a bunch of nonsense. It's news. Things that you need to know about your own community. So you can support them. And in turn, they can support others that look like you and me. That's how this thing works, man. Our Lord, they say, let not our hearts deviate now to you have guided us, but grant us mercy from your presence, for you are the grantor of bounties without measure. Our Lord, give us good in this world, good in the afterlife, and defend us from the torment of the fire. Keep us alive.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Hayya ala salah, hayya ala salah, hayya ala falah, hayya ala falah. Katakama to salat, katakama to salat. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, la ilaha illallah.
Allahu Akbar.
Allahu Akbar.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladina an'amta alayhim ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin.
Ameen.
Wal 'asr. Innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa amilu solihati wa tawasaw bil haqq wa tawasaw bis sabr. Allahu Akbar. Sami Allahu liman hamidah. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladina an'amta alayhim ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin.
Ameen.
Qul huwallahu ahad. Allahu samad. Lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Allahu Akbar. Sami Allahu liman hamidah. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Allahu Akbar.
Allahu Akbar. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Takbir.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Assalamu